Everybody glad to be here?
Yes.
I think that God wound my wife up and then let her loose. She is running everywhere. Running everywhere. How many can tell me the story of the 12 spies that they sent into the land to spy out the land? How many went in?
12.
How many of the 12 came back with a good report? 2. What did they pick or cut that they had to have 2 men carry it on a pole between them to take it back?
Grapes.
Cluster of grapes, and they also talked about pomegranates and things like that. So they had 2 men with a pole with a cluster of grapes. Now, how much is a cluster?
A lot. Yeah.
A bunch. So they came back. Joshua and Caleb said, "It's ours for the taking. Let's go do it. Our God is able."
That's right.
Showed them the grapes, showed them the pomegranates, showed them everything that was there. What did the 10 people do that didn't have the same enthusiasm, if you will? All they saw was what? The giants. The negative. What were they in their sight? We were but grasshoppers. So what did they do? They let the circumstances of what they saw with their eyes rob them of the blessing of God. Well, they could go in. So they were still in the wilderness, right? I just achieved yesterday 39 years with AT&T. I am 62, so I started when I was really young. But I almost have as many years with AT&T as the children of Israel spent in the wilderness because they did not believe what God said and would not do what He said, and they could not go into the promised land for almost 40 years. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but this 39 years with AT&T has seemed like 80. And that's a long time. But when I sat there and I got to thinking about this today, 39 years, almost 40 years, and that's what the children of Israel spent in the wilderness. So God has taken me on a trip for about the last 5 weeks. How many has ever been guilty of saying, "God, where are you? I do not feel you. Where are you at in these trials? Why is this happening to me? Why do you bless Gerald, but it just don't seem like you bless me? Why will you do it for Mark and Doris, but you don't do it for Sister Janice? Why? And so God took me on a journey because I've said the same things. And we read a devotional this morning that basically said the children of Israel have forgotten their cluster of grapes. And the cluster of grapes represented what? God's promise that He was going to give them that land and that promised land and the pomegranates. So that was God's promises. That was His covenant. Does God break a covenant?
No.
No. Did the children of Israel break a covenant?
Yes.
What happened to them?
They died in the wilderness.
They roamed for 40 years. God, and any time that they would repent, what did God do? He would reestablish and go right back to the covenant that He promised. But they seem to forget the cluster of grapes. So their vision got on the giants. And so I have thought about, like I said, for the last 5 weeks, I have no scripture text, but this is what God has told me. He said there were always footprints in your life. I said, what do you mean by that? Because I would be honest, I don't always feel God or see God move in my life, especially when I'm going through something. But he reminded me when I was about 8 years old, because I didn't have a lot of upbringing in church, but what I did have, I went to a Baptist church in Harrison. And I can remember being 7 or 8 years old, and I remember them singing the songs. I've always been attracted to the music. And they would do their altar calls, and I remember at 7 or 8 years old, I remember thinking that I need to go up to the front. My mom did not think I was old enough at that age to understand, so I didn't go up. But God told me, He said, it was a footprint in your life. So God started with me at a young age. Was I saved? No. And so several years went by, and I would tell people the last time that I was in church was baccalaureate, when I was a senior in high school. And that's the way it was. And life went on. I went to college. Got in college, did stuff I shouldn't have done. Had a wreck when the day after Christmas in 1979. That's after I got out of college. I worked for Walmart. I was going back down to Bowie, Texas, and fell asleep. I drove into the back of a 30-foot travel trailer. It was sitting still on the road. I was doing about 60. I set the motor up against the firewall. I had a steering wheel imprint in my chest. I had gauge imprints in my arm. And I got a cracked rib out of it and a really bad headache for several months. And people would say, man, God was with you. And my comment was, He was probably bouncing all over the front seat of the car with me. Which made a joke, but it was not funny. Because I have known people that have done the same thing and been killed. Because I always said, before I die, I will ask God in my heart. But that was proof to me. I was asleep going down the highway. I had no clue. I could not pray. But God told me, He said, it was footprints in your life, because He said I was still there because I had a purpose. And so then it went on, and about November or December of 1980, right around in that time, I had been, quote, engaged to a girl that I thought I was going to marry, and she decided she didn't love me anymore. So that broke apart. So then I'm asking, well, what's the deal with that? And about November, December that year, I got to, it wasn't a prayer because I wasn't saved, but I got to thinking, you know what, I would like to have a girl friend that's got blonde hair, blue or green eyes, had not been around the world, was a church girl, was a good girl, and I would like to have a relationship with somebody like that. Not a prayer, wasn't saved. I met Lisa in January of 1981. Met her on January 6th of 81. Took her to eat lunch on January 9th of 81. Took her on our first date January 10th of 81. She asked me, would you go to church with me? I thought, what a novel idea. First girl that ever asked me to go to church with her. So I went to church. February 22nd, 1981, I got saved. after I got saved, and for a little while, God asked me one day when I started learning about God, He said, what color is her hair? I said, well, it's blonde. What color are her eyes? Well, they're blue or green depending on the day. Because it was always a joke with her. I would get up, I would ask her, can you make your eyes green today? I do not have the ability to do that. And the other time I would say, can you make them blue? And he said, is she a godly woman? I said, yes. Been to church forever. It was a footprint in my life. Because God heard my lot. And He honored that. Well, David, I don't believe that. This is God's the one telling me. So He had a purpose because she was a footprint in my life because she asked me to go to church. I got saved. So a footprint in my life. So God working. So we went along. I had hundreds of questions. What's this Holy Ghost thing? What's this tithing stuff? Why is that guy running across the front of the church and hitting the wall? And why is he running across to the other side and hitting the wall? And why did he go? And I just sat there watching back and forth, and I said, not this boy. Didn't understand. But I asked questions. Brother Turner, I asked Brother Turner question after question after question because I was curious. I wanted to know how the gifts of God work. What is this tongues? What is this interpretation of tongues? What is this laying on of hands and this healing? What is this? And so I peppered Lisa and her mom with question after question after question after question. God, it was a footprint in my life because He was taking us somewhere. He delivered me when I got saved. He delivered me from a spirit of lust. He delivered me from pornography. He delivered me from a foul mouth. He delivered me, not that I was ever much of a drinker, but I felt like when I was around my friends, I had to drink. It didn't matter. I didn't have to drink anymore. So it was a footprint in my life that He took me through. And why I'm saying all this, those are clusters of grapes in my life. Because sometimes I forget that. And so Lisa and I, we got married in May 22nd of 1982. So we began our life together. And we got to know each other more and grew each other, grew to love each other more. We had children. Brother Turner put us in as youth leaders. I don't know how long we did that, 14 or 15 years. Jeff was in our group. He come in one day and he said, our praise and worship leaders have left and quit. I need you to do praise and worship on a temporary basis. Temporary basis with Brother Turner was 20 years. And like Pastor Jeff said, he did not ask. He just said, this is what you're going to do. And I was just learning to play the bass. Footprints in my life. I told God, I got to learn to play this bass. And nobody brings sheet music to a Pentecostal church of God. So I have to play by ear. And I asked Lisa, I said, will I know when there's chord changes? And she said, I can only tell you, you will either know or you won't know. And I asked God, I said, God, you got to teach me. And God Himself spoke to me. He said, I will teach you as long as you're not married to it. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I'll teach you as long as if you're on a stage and I tell you to put the bass down and you go pray for somebody, that you put it down and you go pray. Because the tendency as a musician, or if you're on the stage, you feel like when God's moving and you're singing and doing it, you feel like you're locked in, that you have to keep doing that. And I told God, I said, okay, that's fine. So he taught me to play that. we went on, we had kids, had my job, we worked, same thing, kids drive you crazy. You know, they make stupid decisions, you know, gray hair, you know, even though you try to tell them. So we go through all these things in our life. And we get up here and we have the kids. And there's sometimes I think, God, where are you at? My oldest son is living a lifestyle that I don't agree with. Matthew got to a point in his life that he was going to take his rifle at his house and he was going to kill himself. My daughter started dating a guy that I had a feeling in my gut about and came against that, and we lost her for 2 years. She basically broke all contact. Didn't have anything to do with us. And I lost my cluster of grapes. Forgot God's promises. But God still told me, He said, there was footprints in your life. Because Thomas lately, he's been calling Lisa. Lisa told me the other day he was talking to her about the Bible. There's been some changes that he's making in his life. He's not, he said, I don't think I'm an alcoholic, but he's going to like AA or a counselor to get through that. He called his brother, which never happens, and just talked to him. He said, I'm trying to do better. Matthew was blessed with Becky. True. Not only a footprint in my life, but a footprint in Matthew's life. And I will tell you something about Matthew. He was always unsettled, struggles, and he would come to the house when he was dating girls, and we happened to be the sounding board. She drives me crazy. I just can't take it. She just makes me go bonkers, drive, blame, carry on, and next thing you know, she's not in his life, somebody else is. He started dating Becky. How long they dated? They've been married almost 3 years. I have never heard a negative thing or a derogatory thing out of his mouth about her. She has been the best thing. And God says that's a footprint not only in your life, but it's in his life. I watched my daughter go through stuff for 2 years. She wanted us to apologize to her boyfriend. I said, I'm not apologizing. I haven't done anything. She wanted us to compromise. They were living together. I told her, I said, that is, you know better than that. That is not biblical. I'm not going to sanctify that. I'm not going to apologize. We don't owe an apology. We rebuked him out of her life every day for 2 years. Every day. And I finally got to the point, because I could not see God. I did not see his footprints in my life. And I was at work and I talked to Pastor about this. Ate me up. Could not take it anymore. And I told God one day, I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this. I refuse to compromise. I refuse to give in. I refuse to accept that. And I told God, if that means that I never talk to my daughter again, then so be it. And a peace came over me because a footprint of God showed up in my life. And within about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that relationship was over, and my daughter was she was back to the personality and the person that she was before she got into that relationship. She's back, she calls mom every day. She just got promoted at a job. She also, she's got a guy now that I couldn't ask for anybody better for her in her life. He treats her the way that she ought to be treated. I told my daughters, I said, you deserve to be treated as a princess. If they don't treat you as a princess, then you need to leave and go find somebody else. And put a footprint in my life with my family. After I learned the tithing, didn't understand it, we started paying tithe. I've remained faithful to tithing. We built a house in 2000. If you'd have asked me where that money was going to come from, I went to work one day and I told Lisa, I'm going to do a budget. I did a budget. I got home and I said, according to this budget, I'm like $300 in the hole all the time, but we always had money, so I tore the budget up and said, forget the budget. We'll just trust God to do it. We built a house. We furnished it with new furniture, all the new stuff in it. Cannot tell you where the money came from, but the money was there. I had no furniture debt, no any of that. We paid cash for everything. Where that came from, can't tell you. I mean, we sold our mobile home and all this, but yet God just opened windows. And it's a footprint that He gave because He said, if I will be faithful and I will give and I will be faithful in my giving, He will bless. We increased our tithe. We pay more than 10% tithe. We pay more of a percentage than the 10%, and we should still give above and beyond that. We had a 30-year note on our home. We paid it off in 12 years. And that 12 years has been 7 years ago. Paid it off, so I have no debt. Well, you must be rich. Oh, God is good. Name a time when in 2002 we lost, well, actually 2005, we lost Sister Turner in November of 2005. We fought fires in December of 2005 to try to keep our house from burning to the ground. January of 2006, we lost Lisa's brother Larry and Naoma's dad. And I miss him because he was hilarious. He just never knew what he was going to do. February 10th, lost Pastor's brother Kenny. February 16th. Yeah, same day that Kenny died, Matthew about cut his fingers off. If you ever notice why his drumstick goes flying, he can only grip with these two fingers because these are fused and they don't, if he's standing there like this, it looks normal. So if you're ever on the stage, watch because you may get impaled by a drumstick. But that's why he has spares. I saw him the other day, one went flying and he never missed a beat. He reached and grabbed another one and he was still going. He was still flying. Magic about cut off his fingers. February 18th, my mom passed away. June of that year, I turned, we were driving in our driveway and this really weird wind thing came up. I thought, man, that's weird. And I pulled in my driveway and I looked and my shingles were waving by. It's like a mini cyclone and it just blew all my shingles off my house and I had water running in my house. The same day that happened, Matthew had a wreck. Overturned his car. He overturned it coming back from there. He hydroplaned, flipped the car. in July, I guess my body had had enough because I cratered. Couldn't see God in him. Lost my grapes. Lost a cluster of grapes. So I was off work for 30 days. But there were still footprints of God. Because during that 30 days, I got to decompress, if you will. God took me through that. I had my marriage attacked. I had cancer. When I had the cancer, it's like getting gut punched. When they tell you you have cancer, first thing you think about, I'm going to die. I did research. I'm kind of I had to have answers. I researched that. I researched the treatments. Made the decision on what we were going to do, and had my prostate taken out. And God assured me. He said, "Listen." Now I told him things that I never told Lisa. I said, "God, there's some things you have to do." I said, "Number one, I want the cancer to be contained in the prostate, not out. I needed to be contained. I needed to come out easy. I also," anybody's ever here, once you have your prostate out, any pressure, like if you're squatting down in a foam tunnel or you're down, that prostate regulates leakage. That's the only way I can put it. Sorry. You get down, a lot of pressure, you stand up. I said, "God, I cannot do that. I do not want that. I do not want to wear a catheter or whatever all the time. I don't want to wear that doctor." So, went through all that, went through the surgery. I remember waking up enough, the doctor said, it was like everything was contained in the prostate. He said, it just came out real easy. I did not have to chisel it out. And I could understand just enough, and I thought, chisel? I thought, man, that sounds painful. And went through all that, got an infection, through all that, but anyway, got through all that. All the stuff that I asked God to do, guess what? He did. I don't have a problem with a lot of that. And through that, I can't tell you the number of men that have come to me because they know that I've had prostate cancer, and they want to know what we do, and watch the treatments, and watch this, and how does it affect this, and how does it affect that. If you'd have told me that, that would have opened up some kind of ministry opportunity. I said, nah, that ain't gonna happen. But yet, it has. Now, they don't always like to hear what I tell them. But I will tell them bluntly, and I will tell them honestly. But it's just a footprint, because God told me, He said, "I will hold your hand through this." And then somebody gave me the scripture, both Psalms 118 and 17, "Thou shalt not die, but live, and declare the works of the Lord." And I do not believe that I'm going by way of the grave. I believe I'm going in the rapture of the church. And I believe I'm going to see that. I believe it's going to be in my lifetime. Now, if I die by way of the grave tomorrow, then, whoops, missed it. But I'll be to glory. But I believe that I'm going in the rapture of the church. But yet, the thing about it is, it's footprints in my life. Now here I'm 62 years old. I'm getting close to retirement age. Am I in panic mode? Yes. Because I've worked. I'm like pastor. I just work. your income takes a drop. That's why I was bound and determined. We were paying that house off. I didn't want a house payment over my head. I don't have much, a lot of bills. We're getting ready to get some stuff paid off, and I want to get all that in order. Do I panic? Yes. But you know, I can rest because there's footprints in my life of God, and I can look back. And I can look back to my life. There's not been one time ever that God has ever failed me financially. Ever. Even when I come home and when all my kids, except for Daly, because she was my retirement child, she delayed my retirement. And when Lisa tells me, and we wrote bills, and we were $118 in the hole, and it hadn't even bought groceries. I had boys, kids that were little, and they still were on isomil, or, you know, that stuff was expensive way back then. $118 in the hole, just got paid. You think I lost my cluster of grapes and the promises of God? But you know what? We never told anybody. And we went driving around. God gave me a plan. And got out of debt. And I turned around like an idiot and got back into debt. Because God was showing me, He said, listen, I'm going to teach you to be a better steward. And it took us 3 years. I sold a travel trailer that Lisa dearly loved. Sold it for the amount that I paid for it. We paid bills. Sold a horse that we had that I was the only one that could ride it because everybody was scared of it. I rode it until it about broke my neck. Sold it. Paid bills. Got out of debt. And vowed that I would never get back in that situation again. It's just footprints of God. And He showed us that. He's never failed me financially. Yet here I am going to retire, and yet I still panic or worry about the financial part. But God has proved Himself over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because you know why? I can go to God because I've been faithful in our tithe and my giving. And I can say, God, I put you in remembrance that you said, if I will tithe and I will give, that you will open up a window of heaven and pour out a blessing that I can't receive. You will meet our needs. Now, does that mean I'm going to have $75,000 in a savings account that I can fall back on? No, that's not what it means. If He tells me to go down to my pond and put a lure on there and we'll throw it in there, and when you catch that fish and you pull that out, you open up his mouth and you pull the $400 bills that's in his mouth out of there. Let me ask this, if God told every one of us here to go do that, would you do it? You got a fishing pole in your car? Do you believe God can do that? Do you believe God for your finances? Do you lay awake at night trying to figure out how you're going to pay stuff? Lisa doesn't. I haven't done it in a long time. I used to. Because I had to have a new car every 2 years. I had car payments forever. And but yet, God keeps His promises. So all these times that I lose track of all this, God, He took me all the way back before I even knew He was in my life. Because He knew me when I was formed in my mother's womb. And you can never convince me otherwise, and I believe this with all my heart. When He formed Lisa in her mom's womb, He said, you're for David Owens. And I believe that with all my heart and all my being, that I married the person that God intended for me to marry. I believe that. I'm still dating. And I noticed tonight, it's like, Lord, God wound her up and let her loose. I haven't seen her like that in a long time. It's been a while. So I'm here telling you this. If you're struggling and you feel like that you don't see the footprints of God in your life, then you need to take some time and sit down and reflect and ask God to show you, because He will. Because I've been one of those ones that, yeah, God, you'll do that for the pastor. You'll do that for Doug and Stephanie. You'll do that for Buster, but that's not something that you'll do for me. How wrong I am. I thought He'll give it. God, nobody ever walks up and says, God just put it on my heart to give you $2,000. Now, if anybody wants to do that, that would be fine. But yet, I was doing phone work one day down by the Chamber of Commerce, and it was raining cats and dogs, and I was waiting on my guy in the office to get there so I could get a short on a cable pair so I could see if it was good. And rain's pouring down, and I'm walking around, and I'm kicking grass, and I looked, and I went, what is that? I looked, it was a dollar bill, soaking wet. Put it all out, went in, turned my truck on, turned it on my defroster, and I thought, hey, a dollar bill. Well, I went back out there while I was waiting, I was kicking more grass. I thought, well, if there's a dollar, maybe something else. Well, I found something else. And I thought, well, there's another dollar bill with 2 zeros added on the end of it. $100 bill. Now, there was grass all down through there. By the time I got done, there was no grass. I stomped, and I stomped, I pulled, I kicked, I walked up and down that alley, and I looked, and God said, see what I can do? So what I do with that $101? He told Lisa, it's a date night, baby. We're going to go on a date. God can do that. He can do it. Don't lose sight of what. Don't let life crush you down. And we're supposed to be, what, examples, right? Have we learned that lesson yet? Have we learned that God is all-sufficient? Have we learned that He cares about every aspect of our life? Because He does. I admire Lisa York. I don't understand why Bruce went through what he did or what you got. Yeah. If she has to work, how many jobs you got now? 3? 2? She meets herself coming and going just to keep the family. I admire that. I admire that. Her kids help out and all of that. I admire that. I don't understand why all that happened, but you've got clusters of grapes. Because we all have God's promises. We all have God's promises. He loves each and every one of us. Zach, you got some clusters of grapes, man. Yep. The promised land is there. The promised land is there for all of us. Does that mean we won't have any problems? Until we're out of this world, we're going to have struggles. But the thing we can't forget is that God is always present in our lives, even when we don't feel Him, even when we don't see Him, even if we think He doesn't care. God is always, always there. All He's waiting for is us to say, God, help. And I didn't ask God to review for me. I didn't ask Him to take me. He just did. I've had struggles. You know, I've had some. Do I always want to come to church and walk in the door and be all exuberant and spiritual, and I'm ready to go, and you walk in excited that you're here? Do I do that all the time? Do I have to go tonight? It might be the same old, same old. Well, it's the same old because that's what I expect it to be. You get out of the church, out of the church service, what you put into it.
Yes, amen. Amen.
I left Clearview, Oklahoma at 5:35. I told Lisa, just grab a shirt, a pair of shoes, and it's still in my work jeans, and I'm staying about 8 feet back because I've been sweating today. But I got here, and I pull up here at 6:22, and I want to be here. When we were youth leaders one night, one year, I'll close with this. I'd had a bad day, awful day. I called Lisa. We were running the youth service that night. I told Lisa, I said, it's a bad day. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to stand up on the stage. I don't want to sing. I don't want to talk. I just want to come home. I have no desire to be there. As I was driving home, God began to deal with me. Little footprints started walking all over me. Aren't you a fine example? I called her and I said, I'm not going to be home. I will go straight to the church. And I went to the church, and this used to be kind of the nursery at the door. They kind of, which I like that a whole lot better, like that is back then. I went back there. It was Brother Turner had pews in there, and he'd do Bible study in there. And I got down in there and I said, God, I cannot stand in front of a group of people with the attitude that I have. So God, you have got to help me change my attitude. I need your presence to come upon me, and by the time that I came out of the room, the church had started, everything was different, and I was fine. But there's just some days, we have those days. But you know what? I believe God understands, but that doesn't mean that this is really in the last days. And we need to be ready. We need to be a light. Doesn't mean we're always going to be, no. Doesn't always mean that, but there's always footprints that I can look at. I look at April. I know that she's had a rough time, but yet I've seen footprints of God in her life through all this. Do I wish that she didn't have to go through that? Bad. But she's hung in there. Same way. Went and saw Juanita. A couple of days ago. God's got to intervene. I hate cancer. I hate it. I had 5 in my family. I lost my dad to cancer. I lost my mom to liver cancer. I lost my sister to breast cancer. I've had cancer. My sister that's left has fought cancer. What are the odds? 5 people in one family that you have cancer. I told somebody, I said, it must be in the hair of water, the drinking water. And I said it jokingly, but there is a high incidence of cancer around Hera. Whether that's it, don't have a clue. I hate cancer. Nothing I know to do is pray. I ask you, please pray for Juanita. Lisa went back and saw her today. She can't. You have to really listen close. And, pray for Jim. Strength for him. You know, he lost a daughter. He lost a son-in-law. And he lost a daughter. And he lost his son. And now he's fighting this with Juanita. Jim, you never can really breathe. He always just kind of just seems the same. But I know that it's a issue, you know. So anyway, let's all stand to our feet.